Daniel approached slowly, his eyes narrowing at the white surface. As more of it came into view, he saw windows darkened with layers of dust and dirt stuck across the glass. It wasn't a trailer after all. The shape rose higher than he expected, large and rounded, almost like something built to withstand pressure. He stopped walking, feeling uncertain, but before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. He circled to one side, studying the strange form. Its sides sloped down at odd angles, unlike any vehicle or structure he had ever seen before in the desert. His mind raced through guesses. A storage container, maybe equipment dropped from a truck, but none matched. It didn't belong here. That thought repeated in his head over and over. Up close, the white surface was streaked with long, black marks. They looked like burns, running jagged across the metal. Daniel traced one lightly with his fingertips, leaving dust behind. The marks felt rough, as though something had scorched the outer layer. His pulse quickened. Whatever this thing was, it hadn't just been left behind, it had been through something violent. On one side, thick ropes hung loosely, their fibers frayed and rough. Daniel bent down to study them, noticing they had been pulled hard, almost to breaking. Something had been dragged. He followed the rope with his eyes, spotting where it had torn free of the ground. The idea formed slowly. Someone had hauled this enormous object here recently, maybe in secret. Daniel straightened suddenly when the metallic echo returned. This time it wasn't outside, but from within the object. A hollow, muffled sound traveled through the walls, making him step back. He held still, listening harder. It came again, faint but real. His mouth went dry. Something wasn't right. Someone or something was inside this strange, massive shell, moving around slowly. Daniel's body locked up. He debated leaving to call for help, but his feet wouldn't move. The idea of walking away from the mystery was somehow harder than staying. His thoughts tangled. If someone was inside, did they need help? Was he trespassing on something dangerous? He stared at the metal surface, unable to decide what to do next. The sounds grew clearer, dull thuds, spaced apart. They weren't random, not just echoes. Daniel recognized the rhythm of movement, like a person shifting their weight or pushing against something heavy. Daniel lifted a hand and knocked twice on the metal. The sound rang out, hollow and strange, vibrating through his arm. He pulled back quickly, startled by his own action. Silence followed. The noise inside stopped completely. His heart pounded in his chest as he realized he had made contact. Whoever was inside had heard him for certain. The stillness pressed in hard. Daniel stared at the capsule, breathing shallow. He wondered if he'd scared whoever was inside. His imagination filled the quiet with possibilities he couldn't stop. He considered stepping closer again but didn't. The silence stretched long enough to make him believe he had been wrong, that nothing was inside, until he finally heard a voice. The words came faint but unmistakable. "Help me!" Daniel's body tensed. The voice was weak, strained, like someone who had been stuck for far too long. He couldn't ignore it. He pressed closer, palms on the metal, trying to respond but unable to find the right words. Someone was trapped, and he was the only person close enough to hear. Daniel's eyes darted across the strange surface, scanning for a seam or handle. His fingers brushed along the edges, but nothing resembled a normal door or hatch. Panic bubbled inside him. Someone was in there, waiting. He pressed harder against the shell, calling out that he was looking, determined not to walk away now. Finally, near the base, Daniel spotted a recessed panel with a small latch. It was rusty and stiff, almost hidden by dust. His hands shook as he reached for it. The latch resisted at first, unmoving, as though it hadn't been touched in years. He pulled harder, straining his arm until suddenly it gave way with a harsh creak. The panel swung open with a reluctant groan, and a blast of hot, stale air rushed out. Daniel staggered back, coughing against the wave of suffocating heat. It smelled of sweat, oil, and something metallic, like rust or blood. His stomach twisted, but he leaned forward again, knowing someone was waiting inside that suffocating darkness. Daniel squinted into the shadows. A man lay half-slumped, his face red and peeling from heat, clothes stained with grease and dirt. His chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. The man lifted his head weakly, eyes unfocused. Relief flickered across his features when he saw Daniel. He whispered again, asking for help in a rasping, broken voice. With effort, The man explained what had happened. It wasn't a spaceship or secret craft. It was an old training capsule, once used for practice and long since decommissioned. He said it had been dragged here illegally for scrap by a small crew. The equipment broke down, and when they left, he was accidentally trapped inside and forgotten. Daniel's chest tightened as he listened. The man described hours of banging, waiting for anyone to notice. He had nearly given up hope when Daniel's footsteps had finally come close. The man's voice cracked with exhaustion. Daniel offered his arm, urging him out, both struggling against the weight of fatigue and the suffocating heat that clung to the interior walls. It took all of Daniel's strength to haul the man toward the opening. The ropes and jagged metal caught at their clothes, but finally they stumbled out into open air. The man collapsed onto the ground, gasping as the fresh desert wind hit his lungs. Daniel knelt beside him, steadying him, both shaken by the bizarre situation unfolding in silence. Together, they pushed away from the capsule. Daniel half-supported the man, each step dragging in the loose sand. The sun beat down, but the air tasted freer than before. Daniel looked back once. The white, battered shell loomed against the desert backdrop, silent now, like a relic from another time. It felt out of place, unsettling, and unforgettable. Daniel finally pulled his phone from his pocket, dialing quickly. His voice shook as he gave their location, explaining someone was injured and needed medical attention immediately. The operator pressed for details, but Daniel hesitated. How could he explain what he had found? He settled for the truth. A man trapped in an old capsule behind his house. As sirens grew faint in the distance, Daniel and the man sat side by side in the dust, both catching their breath. The desert felt quieter than it had before. Daniel knew he would never look at his backyard the same way again. Behind his fence had been a secret, an old machine with a story buried inside its walls. Daniel kept glancing down the dirt road, hoping to see the emergency lights appear sooner. The man leaned heavily against him, eyes closed but still breathing steadily. The strange capsule loomed behind them, quiet again. Daniel's mind kept circling back to it, trying to process how such a huge thing could sit hidden near his backyard. Minutes stretched uncomfortably long until the faint sound of sirens finally reached Daniel's ears. Relief washed over him, though his heart still raced from the adrenaline of discovery and fear. The man stirred weakly at the noise, whispering that he hadn't thought anyone would ever find him. Daniel tightened his grip, assuring him he wasn't alone anymore. A dust cloud rose on the horizon as a vehicle approached. 2 paramedics rushed over, kneeling quickly beside the man. Their calm voices contrasted sharply with Daniel's shaky breathing. They began checking his pulse, offering water, and preparing to lift him onto a stretcher. Daniel stepped back, feeling suddenly small as professionals took over the urgent situation. One paramedic glanced at the capsule, eyebrows furrowing, then back at Daniel. "Where did this come from?" he asked. Daniel hesitated, unsure how to condense what had happened. He admitted he didn't know much, only that he had heard noises and found the man trapped. The paramedic shook his head, muttering something about calling local authorities next. As the stretcher was loaded into the ambulance, Daniel lingered by the strange object one last time. Its scorched sides caught the sun, stark against the barren desert ground. He realized it would soon be taken away, investigated, and maybe forgotten again. But for him, it would remain a memory the day a hidden relic called out for help.